recognize the Vice Chairman of the committee, the gentleman from Mississippi, also from Mississippi, Mr. Guest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To each of our witnesses, I want to thank you for referencing the October 7th attack on Israel by Hamas, a terrorist organization funded by Iran. Mr. Warwick, you say in your written statement that the Hamas terrorist attack on October 7th ranks among the worst terrorist attacks in modern history. Mr. Greenway, you reference the attack, and you say at least 1,200 Israelis were killed, 2,200 wounded, and approximately 150 hostages taken as Hamas terrorists carried out an unprecedented multi-front attack on Israel at daybreak on October the 7th. And Ambassador Sells, in your written testimony, you state that this hearing is taking place in the aftermath of a horrific terrorist attack on our ally Israel. On October 7th, gunmen from Hamas, a Palestinian terrorist group that the Islamic Republic provides with money, weapons, and training, invaded southern Israel from the Gaza Strip. More than 1,400 men, women, and children were mercilessly slaughtered, and 200 hostages were carried off into captivity, including infants and toddlers. You go on to say that October 7th was the deadliest day in Israel's 75 history, more than it was the deadliest day of Jews since the Holocaust. And finally, you reference it was also a dark day for America, with 30 U.S. citizens killed and an estimated 1,300 missing. I want to take a minute first to condemn the attacks on Israel. I also want to take a moment to condemn members of Congress who do not support Israel's right to defend themselves, to defend members of Congress who spread false information that the hospital destroyed in Gaza was caused by Israel, when instead we know that our intelligence community shows that that destruction was caused by Palestinian militants. We know Iran is an exporter of terrorists, funding terrorist organizations such as Hamas and Hezbollah. We also know how Iran feels about America, that the Iranian regime hates America. Iranian leaders referred to America as the Great Satan. We saw several years ago after the death of General Soleimani that the Iranian parliament in unison chanted death to America, death to America. We also know that our intelligence agency has identified threats posed to the U.S. by Iran. In the annual threat assessment, which was conducted and put out by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, dated February of this year, there's an entire section on Iran. One of that section states Iran will continue to threaten U.S. persons directly and via proxy attacks, particularly in the Middle East. Iran also remains committed to developing surrogate networks inside the United States, an objective it has pursued for more than a decade. So in light of the warnings issued by the Director of National Intelligence, I want to speak to the threats to our homeland posed by the vulnerabilities caused by our insecure border. We saw statistics that have recently been released. Shows a record number of immigrants coming across the border. Fiscal year 21, 1.7 million. FY22, 2.4. This past year, FY23, almost 2.5. And that's in addition to the estimated 1.5 million gotaways. We know that Fox reported that this month that there were 2 Iranians who were apprehended crossing the southwest border, both who appeared on the terrorist screening database. Mr. Greenway, in the brief amount of time that I have left, I would ask that you would speak specifically to the dangers posed to our homeland by this administration's failure to secure our southwest border.
Thank you, Congressman. I would say that first, you correctly point out that the population that's entered our border provides rich potential for them to recruit criminal organizations to conduct a range of attacks. Second, their operational infrastructure already here in the United States has been deprioritized such that it has been unaddressed. The combination of the two constitute a present risk.
And One last thing, Mr. Greenway, and then I'll close. One of your recommendations is to enact H.R. 2 and to reestablish territorial integrity. Is that correct?
It is, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.